Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we can just wrap up the think tanks now. We'd like to just take a few minutes to give each group the chance to share a little bit about what they discussed. This way, the other people in the room can get a little bit of the insight about what was discussed. Obviously, you're not going to share everything, but it helps complete the circle a little bit in terms of what we did. So because he's standing up and because he's ready looking at me, I think I'd like to first invite Bill Pollock from CTM, who led our discussion on reducing empty miles. So if we can just have your attention for a little while longer while we do this. So, Bill, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your table discussed?
My name is Bill Pollock from Convertible Trailer Manufacturing from Western Canada. So it's a pleasure to be here and meet with all of you. We spoke about empty miles in the automotive logistics sector. So we've got the following points. A lot of empty miles in automotive logistics here in South America, just like anywhere else in the world. Up to 50% of trucks, rail cars, and vessels running around the world, or in Brazil as well. This is not a unique problem to Brazil. So what can we do to reduce, eliminate all that inefficiency? So the comments that I received from a variety of attendees here, we have some OEMs and logistics companies and parts providers, the right mix of participants in this session. And if they were to collaborate, just from my perspective, we could actually see some improvements and gains. It's pretty obvious. Automotive and containers are possible. We need one thing that we identified is there are three parts to the solution, and one is hardware, having the appropriate hardware, multi-purpose equipment perhaps, something capable of doing more than transporting vehicles. And then software, important if you want to scale the idea of moving automotive parts and finished vehicles. Might be good if you could scale the idea and do it intelligently. And then people and processes. How do we combine all three of those factors to create a more efficient solution? So needing a central platform, and this platform to be managed by a neutral party, so that all of you competitors out there do not feel threatened by others. You all want to gain something, but you don't want to help your competitors. So this is kind of a tug of war. OEMs need to collaborate to assist in complementary runs. That's a difficult one because you don't want to enable your competitor. They might steal a sale from you. Confidentiality is very important. Pricing must stay unknown. Opportunities exist in empty container returns. Do not mess with the transport union. This is the one I have a star beside. Don't mess with the locals here that have these contracts identified and they protect them at all costs. I've heard different adjectives on that one, so I'm not putting up my hand. Inbound and outbound departments do not collaborate. So today, all of your inbound, outbound departments all work separately, different buildings or different floors or different cities. They have no reason to collaborate, but we contend that the reason they do not collaborate is because the right type of equipment has not existed yet in the marketplace today. And again, this is not unique to Brazil. This is not unique to South America. This is not unique to anywhere. It's common to the entire industry. Another comment that was made is no cabotage allowed in Brazil, and this has accounted for 30% extra cost in this unique situation here in Brazil. So that also is another barrier, so a lot of protectionism here. Many containers are not interchangeable due to ownership. Infrastructure restrictions also a problem. Old bridges, etc., clearances, perhaps there's not a good enough standard there yet to be able to use new types of hardware. Collaboration is usually rare. Non-collaboration is the norm. So despite the fact that we have hardware issues and software issues, there's a reluctance to work together. So what's the solution? I understand FCA found a way to combine their own two-way flows to see a 30% reduction in rates, with the permission, of course, of the transport union. And so that turned out to be a beneficial thing for them. So, and in conclusion, the solution that is seen here is if there's this protectionism going on and this confidentiality problem going on, and you don't want to enable your competitors, that perhaps we should bring automotive outbound logistics, all that empty capacity out there, and bring it closer to general freight logistics. So to see if we can combine automotive finished vehicle logistics with perhaps agriculture or construction or fast-moving consumer goods or something else that's non-threatening. And maybe the industry will listen more as a result. So that's my conclusion. It was a great group. Thank you for your input. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Bill. So there you heard there was hardware problems, software problems, people, issues, regulation, protectionism, a failure to collaborate, which probably leads us nicely to our next section. Thank you as well, Bill, for agreeing to be the new figurehead to represent the union battles coming up. I think everyone has noted that and put you down for that. But on the collaboration point, since that was highlighted as one of the key failing points, if you like, between reducing empty backhauls, maybe I can hand it over to our collaboration logistics table and hear a little bit of feedback on what you discussed. So, Fabrizio.
Bom, boa tarde, pessoal.
Good afternoon. Our theme here was addressed to everything that we have been discussing in the past. Last year's event, we talked about a collaborative logistics and the fact of as executives of the companies, we see the effectiveness of all this discourse, how much we manage to take out of the paper, which is very nice on paper when we look at the opportunities for collaboration, when we look at where am I going with a truck that's coming back empty? If I have a warehouse that has idle space that could be used by a competitor, we look at all this. We say we need to do collaborative logistics and synergy of cost, but when we come to carry this out, we can't see in practice companies making this happen, be it for internal issues because they're going to have to make an agreement with the competition, or because they can't take the focus away from the current problems to focus on that. But the discussion was very nice because we had O&Ms, we had part suppliers on the same table, and what I took out as a result of our discussions is that all the companies see that we can no longer leave that just on paper. Companies already have a mentality that's changing for that to happen. We, over lunch, Wilson was at the table with us, and we talked a little bit about that, and he said something that I thought was great, because he said, if the companies don't do that now in this times of crisis is going to become milder, and work will come back, and we won't be doing that then. So it's the time to look for these collaborations. Two very loud points that were clear here. There's a great need for companies to receive an offer of a share, and from this, on the side of the providers, we offer, but we can't do it. But the most important of all, that I see as a great success of this event is that at the end of the day, we defined a group that we decided to carry on this discussion. We will have in the near future the initiative of meeting again and discuss and start to open up operations and look where these opportunities are and try to run through others, even if it's small initiatives, to show these companies the gains, and with that we will manage to broaden up these actions and have better results for all. So it was a very positive discussion, and we are available to others that could not participate in our discussion. You will welcome to participate in this group. We'll be here until the end of the day, and then we'll have dinner together. We can talk about it. Muito obrigada. Fabrício Rigo, da Penske Logistics, teve muitos pontos bons e o mais importante é o aspecto.
Let this discussion die out here, right? Continue throughout the year. We don't need to come back and repeat ourselves next year. Hopefully we'll be able to share some progress on that. Let's come now to packaging, where there's obviously a fear factor, right? Everyone's petrified of changing their packaging. So maybe Sharon, you can tell us why that is and how we're going to address that.
Thanks, Christopher. Hello, my name's Sharon Gray. I'm with CHEP Automotive and Industrial Solutions. We are the Uber of packaging. How's that? So we, and it's kind of nice. People at least now know what that is and what we do. But we were talking about the fear of changing your packaging strategy. A lot of times companies will get set in their ways, and even if there's maybe a better idea out there, that the fear of the what if it goes wrong overcomes, I guess just the willingness to make the change. So what we were talking about, and we were lucky to have representation from both the Tier 1 supplier and OEM, and then a few of us being from the logistics and 3PL type world. So it was a good discussion, and what we talked about is from, to really be able to overcome that fear, you need to have multiple people and multiple departments involved in that decision. So packaging touches a lot of different departments. It's in the hidden costs, if you will, are on P&Ls that a lot of times customers don't even know there's a cost there. But if they have, inefficiencies in their, utilization of their trucks or their sea containers, those are things that are not factored in until you really do an analysis of their supply chain and look at all the total costs that could be hidden. So we felt that it was important that multiple people were involved in it. We also thought that, the number one thing then companies want to see is, what's the cost savings involved, or what's the, personnel savings, those hidden costs, what does it mean to the bottom line? And that gets everyone's attention. And it was regardless of whether it was a small number, we didn't feel like there had to be a certain revenue threshold to make it valid. We felt like that was something that people are always looking for cost savings, and that if you can drive with that, if you can lead with that in your conversation, you will get people's attention. Some of the things that we thought that we could help to aid in, say, looking at the total cost is we need to have standardization in packaging. A lot of times we have, multiple boxes being used or expendable being used on international shipments. Those things are not going to help in trying to gain efficiencies. So that was one of the things. We also talked about synergies, even in the packaging world. I heard it, raised in a couple of the other tables, and we were talking about that too, that if there were companies that would work together on their packaging requests, since they're all sourcing from a lot of the same suppliers, that could be a benefit as well. But I think the main thing that we really felt, to be able to overcome the fear of change is to be able to validate it, have your facts and figures, be able to present that in a cost savings perspective, and then that would get the attention. And then also the main thing too was the implementation of it. To be able to have a successful rollout of that change is vital to the person who's making that decision. They want it all to go well. And so we talked about some ways of doing that. And one was having supplier days where all of the suppliers came in and the vendor was able to present how their operation was going to work and what was going to be requested from the the supplier. Another idea was to be able to just implement lane by lane, and then also, supplier by supplier, and talking about starting small, building it, and being able to, take that scale and replicate. So great group here. Thank you guys. I appreciate everybody being very open to the discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sharon. A lot of important points there. Packaging is definitely an area that we see, across the world is needing some reform. So good to see some progress made on that. Let's hop back here where we have Vigard. Vigard, we were talking about international logistics. So Vigard flew in from China. I think it was 2 back-to-back 12-hour flights. So he knows something about moving around the world as it is anyway. Vigard.
Thank you. Well, first off, Christopher, they all spoke Portuguese, so I didn't understand anything. No, just joking. Well, we talked about international supply chains and how you as your suppliers and OEMs, and also we as logistics service providers, can help improve efficiency in these international supply chains. And we also talked a little bit about the difficulties we face in managing our international supply chains. Mainly first for the difficulties we face today, it was mentioned that it can be very difficult when you have an international or a global supply chain. You need to align the strategies of your whole organization, and maybe the strategies you share between different organizations as well. And this can be very difficult. We also visibility is improving, but still visibility in international supply chains are still not good enough. We need to find ways and find procedures to improve this, especially for inbound logistics, international logistics. So visibility is important. For outbound, custom clearance, efficient custom clearance, perhaps more standardized procedures of this. It's a long shot. It's going to take a long time, but one of the main challenges for outbound international logistics. Also, people is an integral part of our international supply chains. Without the right people, the people who know how to manage these supply chains, how to interact with your different partners in different continents, in different countries, and in different organizations, we face big challenges. And with high people turnover in lots of logistic companies, in freight forwarders, in logistic roles within manufacturing companies, it can be difficult to uphold the effective international supply chains. Another thing that was mentioned was the speed of communication is not necessarily quick enough. We need to communicate in time, in real time. People need to know what's going on. You need to know where your cargo is, what's going on with your cargo, when it will arrive, if any problems comes up. This you need to know pretty much straight away. So for some of the solutions that we found was, first there was a little bit of a discussion about this. Can we make tailor-made solutions for each client? So you have one system that you tailor-made for each client in order to manage the international supply chains? Or do we need standardized systems, standardized procedures to manage like all international supply chains? Yeah, there was, I think the main number was 4 tailor-made solutions. But yeah, some discussion on that. I guess in some situations, tailor-made is good. In others, standardization would be better. Regarding people, we need to develop people. We need to come up with schemes for retaining the important people in our companies, and we need to have strategies for training new people and developing them to function well in our companies. We also need more collaboration. Not only between client and operator, but also between different operators, between different clients, between different OEMs, all across the value chain. We need more collaboration if our international supply chains should work as efficient as possible. We also need more control of how we track our cargo. It was mentioned by GM that they try to operate all the cargo flows from Brazil. Well, if they have cargo coming in from China, it's not always necessary that the guys putting the goods in the container in China do a good job. So it was mentioned in some situation we can have give more control to the operator at the place of origin for the international flows we have. We also need better track and trace solutions. We need to be able to see where our cargo is at all time. One solution that was mentioned was to perhaps try to combine the traditional sea freight operators with the typical courier technology. So you're able to, in a much greater scale, track your parcels or your smaller shipments, even during sea voyage. And collaboration, again, it was mentioned that everyone who is involved in the supply chain needs to be a part of this. It needs to be open communication. It needs to be transparency between all parts involved in the international supply chains. And relationships need to be better maintained and put more focus on. So to quickly summarize the key points for how we can improve our international supply chains, we have a couple of keywords. It was commitment, relationships, IT, people, alignment, transparency, cooperation, traceability, and people again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vigard. I think that summed it up quite well. Actually, I think you've kind of just solved all the logistics problems right there. I'm pretty sure those were the main themes that we've been hearing again and again throughout the day, but I don't think there's any coincidence on that. So thank you very much, a very interesting set of insights. Our last discussion here was led by Fabio Garcia from MAN, and we were talking about service parts logistics. So, Fabio.
Boa tarde. Aqui o grupo basicamente estava formado por operadores logísticos.
Was formed by logistics operators and their clients. So the discussion was around of how is their relationship. So as the first point for discussion, it was a consensus that the relationship must be mature between the parties, and they have to trust each other, and based on that, make a planning and have a shared view at the medium term between the two companies. As a second point, discuss what would be the best way for the O&Ms create synergy amongst themselves to take advantage of the logistics advantages that might be gained. And the third point is what would be the way for the logistics carriers add value so that not everything would end up in price. What would be the process to select the logistics carrier to have a gain-gain relationship, and in the end, not the one that had the best price would win. These are the 3 points that we discussed in our group. I don't know if anyone would like to add anything else. Thank you very much. Muitas coincidências em termos do que nós precisamos fazer e decidir. Gostaríamos de ressaltar as coisas que nós vamos continuar isso no ano que vem.
It's always valuable to take some time to do it. We're going to take another coffee break, but just a few points. You're going to receive, or you will have received, evaluation forms. So by the end of the conference, by the end of the next session, please take a couple minutes to fill those in. We really value your feedback. It helps us shape the program, and we use it very closely in our planning. There's a prize draw at the end, so please remember to do that. Next session, we've got a great panel. You see all the chairs. They will be full. We'll have Fiat Chrysler. We have tier supplier up there. Penske's coming back up. We'll have representation from kind of across the sector, Renault. And we're going to have a lively Q&A, which we hope for you all to get quite involved in. Going from there, we'll have our gala dinner. We'll have a couple of buses who will leave directly afterwards at 5:30, pretty much on the dot. The buses will be leaving from just outside here. I'll remind you about it again. So if you can come to the next session sort of ready to go if you want to take the coach, or of course you can also meet us directly there. So thanks again. Enjoy the coffee. We'll see you back here at 4 o'clock.